Welcome to HarmonyTALK, a podcast about dreamers and doers, people who fulfilled a dream and share their journey with us, especially that moment when there was no turning back. This podcast is brought to you by AM Skyer, a third-generation family insurance business started in 1920. I'm your host, Lisa Champeau. Today's guests are Isabel Bohn and Jeff McGinnis, founders of the Pennsylvania Center for Adapted Sports, which provides lifestyle and competitive sports programs for people with disabilities. Based in Philadelphia, the center currently operates 13 sports and wellness programs year-round. We're talking rowing, skiing at Camelback Mountain in the Poconos, cycling, birding, swimming, hockey, triathlons, volleyball, and more. The center has produced 11 Paralympians, including alpine skier Stephanie Jallin, who took a bronze medal at Sochi in 2014, and Tyler Carter, who has competed in 3 Paralympics, most recently 2022 in Beijing. Hello and welcome, Isabel and Jeff.
Hello, Lisa.
Hi, Lisa. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you here. The center started unofficially in the 80s with rowing and then skiing and was eventually incorporated in 1995. Why don't you just share with us what the original dream was, the original vision, and how it has evolved? Because it really has evolved.
So the center, as we call it, came out of 2 independent programs, a handicapped ski club, as it was called, and an adapted rowing program, both out of Philadelphia. And we were both involved in them, but we both saw that more needed to be done and with a little more focus. So we got the idea to create the center. I'll be honest, I think we had a vision, and that's about all we had. We didn't really know the way forward. And once you meet Isabel, you understand that if she gets something in her head, it's going to happen. That's really what happened.
Well, you certainly have grown into quite a huge organization, and you do focus a lot on inclusivity. In other words, it's not just about rowing and skiing, but it's also about social interaction and individual growth. Wouldn't you say that was true?
Absolutely, yes. And I think our volunteers probably get as much pleasure out of the program as we do and as adaptive athletes do. It's a really wonderful, open, fun organization. It's not medically directed. It's people want to participate in sports, and we make it possible for them. It started off with myself. I'm an amputee. I was in an accident when I was a child, and I wanted to ski all my life. And my mother was very overprotective. She didn't want me to ski. So at the ripe age of 42, I finally started to ski, and I got hooked. And that's how I really met Jeff also. We both were volunteering in a large amputee ski clinic. Then we realized that there were quite a few programs out west, usually in resort areas on big mountains out in Colorado and California, but there was nothing really in inner cities. And we felt there was a real need to provide this type of sports and recreation for people in the cities. So that's how it came about. And also when I learned to ski at the same clinic up in Stratton, Vermont, there were 2 people from Philadelphia, and I found out there was a rowing program that had started the previous year, and I joined them. So we had these 2 programs, and then we felt there were opportunities for other programs too, and we incorporated. That's where we are today. How many years later?
35, a long time.
Yes.
35 years later. You have about 500 individuals that you serve, from the very young to the elderly, and people with, as you mentioned, spinal cord injuries, cerebral palsy, autism, visual impairments. I can't even imagine myself getting on top of a mountain poised to ski and not being able to see. How do you help them overcome their fears?
Well, if it's somebody with a visual impairment, there's a great deal of trust there, because as an instructor, you're going to be at some point just giving them verbal guidance as far as whether to turn left or right. During the training part, you're more, I would say, hands-on. But you have to build that trust up. If you can't, then you're not going to proceed. So the instructors that work in that particular modality in skiing and other sports with visually impaired have to make that connection. But that trust factor goes across all our participants. We have to know what we're doing. I mean, you can be well-intentioned, but you need to understand the technical side. And we do a great deal of training for our volunteers. Many come from out of the healthcare field, and they have that background, but we don't require that. So people will join us, and then we have to get them up to speed. So the education is constant.
And with a blind athletes, there's a lot of hands-on in the beginning. So they feel secure. They hold on to your hands. So the first movements are just basically hands-on before they become secure enough in their movements so we can do it just verbally.
That's amazing. Well, I do have a little bit of a surprise for you. I did talk to one of your students, Tyler Carter, the 3-time Paralympian, and he told me what the center meant for him. He's now in Colorado, of course, and we do have that clip.
I was 8 the first time I experienced the Pennsylvania Center for Adapted Sports. I went to their annual winter learn to ski / race camp, and that's where I fell in love with skiing and really adaptive sports in general. Just an eye-opening experience to kind of see what you can do and how, really the only limitation that's out there is your mind. And Jeff and Isabel really made that happen. I mean, that's what they're all about. They encouraged everyone to push outside their comfort zones and just to be active and do something. And it was just a very new experience that I was grateful to be a part of. I'm missing my leg below the knee, and anytime I was out skiing, I didn't feel like I was missing my leg. I skied with 2 legs, poles, no one could tell if I didn't want them to know that I had a this ability. And that was such a cool and freeing feeling that I was going out there and I was just like everyone else. I was making the same turns. I was trying to go fast. It was just a very different experience that opened the door for me to kind of go down and really take that to a whole different level. But just being like everyone else and not letting anything stop me or get in the way. I think that was one of the most important things that PCAS and Jeff and Isabel really brought on with the camp and the programs they offer.
He started skiing when he was 8 with you, and then he went on to the Paralympics, and now he's 29 years old. I mean, he's had an amazing career, and it all started at the Pennsylvania Center for Adapted Sports. Isabel, as you mentioned earlier, you lost your left leg below the knee in a streetcar accident in your native Germany when you were young, but you went on to become quite an athlete, the first adaptive competitor at a World Rowing Championship. You're a disabled ski instructor in Pennsylvania, and you were instrumental in getting rowing included in the Paralympics in 2008. On top of all that, I believe you competed in at least 3 New York City marathons. How did you discover all that you could do?
I was in good shape, but I didn't really have time to do any sports before I started skiing and rowing. I had 4 children to raise. It took me a little longer than the kids to learn how to ski. It took a few sessions before I became really secure and proficient. So just patience and not giving up. That was my motto.
I imagine this is something that you impart to the students who come to your programs, this same kind of don't give up attitude.
That's right. Don't ever give up.
Don't ever give up.
If it's Isabel giving the message, you're not allowed to give up. She's not brutal about it, but she's very firm about it in her German way that you will,
but pleasant
you
also.
will persevere. And that's part of our culture. We're very welcoming. We are very inclusive. But if someone identifies themselves or we think they have potential to, really go far in their chosen sport, we'll marshal the resources that we can to help them do that. We kind of divide things into recreation, things that most of us would do, go to the gym, go for a run. Those are recreation programs. And then we have our elite or development programs. And like the program that Tyler was talking about is a youth ski camp that Tyler, as you said, came out of. He also comes back every year as coach. We bring him in to coach. And a lot of the kids in our program, they don't have a lot of role models that look like that. So when Tyler shows up, he is a rock star to that. There were at least 4 crushes this year directed towards Tyler. It's quite funny. So, but it's important to have those role models. You can explain to people when you can show somebody and say, look, this is what it takes. And you give the person the opportunity to do that. Things begin to change. Their views begin to change. It's a long process, but I have seen it over and over. Our imprint is much larger than just teaching somebody to row or kayak or ski. We just know it's going to happen a lot.
I think you've seen it happen a lot of times, and that probably propels you forward. How did you two meet? Did you meet in the rowing world?
We met at a rowing meeting. Jeff was a volunteer in the rowing program. I think I was running the rowing program at the time. I was the manager. I said I couldn't attend the next meeting because I have to go skiing. And he looked at me and he said, "You're skiing too?" So I asked the people who ran this big event at Jack Frost Mountain, whether they needed another volunteer, and they said absolutely. So Jeff came up and volunteered, and he was quite efficient and successful.
It was great. Yeah, I'd skied all my life, but I didn't really know anything about adaptive skiing, and I kind of got thrown into it. And I survived, and my students survived, so I was asked back, and that was kind of the sort of the beginning of our work together.
I mean, we're talking now about Paralympic skiing. How did you get involved in the world of sports disabilities and sports?
When I was in college, I was a lifeguard to earn some money at the school. I think it was a Y or something. They brought some kids in who had disabilities, and I just was told, you're going to be working with these kids today. And it was really interesting and fun. And that was my first exposure to that. And then when I got out of college, I wanted to do some volunteer work. So I looked around, and this is pre-internet, so it wasn't always so easy to find what's out there. And I knew some people at McGee Rehab, and they had a swim program, and they would take people to the University of Pennsylvania pool. And I went in there, I got interviewed, and I was accepted into the program. And that was really my kind of formal start, working in a semi-clinical setting at a rehab center. And it was a lot of fun. And a couple of they weren't really my students. I was just teaching them how to swim again. Went on to become Paralympic swimmers. There are many quite hilarious stories around people getting started. Some people can be very impulsive, and that impulsivity, sometimes the outcome is pretty bad. So they wind up with an injury, and that impulsivity doesn't go away. So we just try to redirect that, and use it as a tool. So that was my beginning. And then when Isabel and I got together, and we came up with this idea of we need to do more. There isn't anything around, and we need to make sure it happens where the people are in a city. That's how we started. We're not just in Philadelphia. We have programs in southeastern Pennsylvania, and then the ski program is in the Northeast. And we partner with some other programs like the I Am Able Foundation to extend our reach out towards Reading. So we're like a mid-sized adaptive sports program.
Well, you speak very easily and comfortably about the program, but I am sure there were a lot of challenges along the way just to keep it going, even just financially.
I'm the executive director, and a lot of my time is spent securing funding. The adaptive sports equipment is very expensive. We are committed to getting the right equipment for people and the right quality equipment. So, for example, a hand cycle, they're $10,000 to $12,000 to start, and they go up more. The skis, some of the ski equipment is $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 for an individual piece. And we spend that money because we call it barriers to participation. And if you don't have the right equipment, then there's a barrier there. You can be I have seen this before. A gym will say, yeah, we're accessible if someone wants to come in, but they don't have any of the equipment and they don't have any of the training. They're willing to do it, but they don't have that piece. So it's not functional for somebody to go there. So we try to, through getting the right equipment, and we have to get a lot of it because we don't know what someone needs going in. So we have.
And plus the equipment probably itself evolves, gets better.
It does. It's amazing. I would say the equipment's on like a 5-year life cycle. So we'll get 5 years out of it, and then nobody wants it because there's something way better. And then we have to go out and get that, which is fine. We've always been like that.
Well, yours is a nonprofit program, but it's not exactly free. I mean, people do have to pay for their ski passes and so on, right?
Yes. Some programs they're all low cost. For example, at Camelback, they're very generous, and they deeply discount the ski packaging because one of the, I call it the background stuff. People with disabilities, that the whole community has an employment rate of 70%, 70. So someone who's in that category is not going to go out and buy a $12,000 hand cycle. It's just not going to happen. So we have to keep our costs down. If someone can't afford it, we don't charge them. We have a sliding scale, essentially. Our most expensive program is the ski program, and it's $60 for a lesson. Our rowing program, we charge $60 for the season. We don't cover our costs through the program entry fees. We rely on our community, individuals, corporations, grants.
And you have a lot of volunteers.
We do. We have about 250 volunteers, regular volunteers. And then when we have events, that number goes up. But they are all walks of life, and they're really great people.
Was there ever a moment where you said, oh, we can't do this anymore. This is just too hard. This is too much?
I say that probably every night, and then Isabel redirects me. I have a 2-minute complaint window at the dinner table, and then that's it.
That's why my shoulders are so wide.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes it does seem overwhelming. how are we going to get this done? Isabel is really great. She's pretty fearless about things. I think that is what makes it possible for us to do these, which are often impossible things because they weren't done before. Nobody was doing. It's too hard, or we don't have the community support, or we don't have the government, the local government isn't doing. But we just go forward, and they can come along if they want. That's just kind of our attitude.
You two are partners in business, but you're also partners in life. I believe you got married sometime into your relationship. Would it be fair to say that you bring out the best in each other? Jeff, when you're about to give up, Isabel's like, no, you're not.
Oh, yes. Isabel will prop me up. I think I smooth over some of her rougher or more pointed edges. So, yeah, we have been together for 35 years. So you learn how your partner's going to respond to something, how you need to give a little more support. It's great, but it's our life. It really is our life. It's our life. It's my job. But when I come home, Isabel wants to know what's going on, and we talk about it a lot.
What do you see as the future for the center? Is it going to grow some more? It's grown so much already.
Yes, it's going to keep growing. COVID was pretty challenging for a lot of nonprofits, and especially for us, because we run in-person programs. So we didn't know what to do for a couple of weeks, but we figured it out. But, I'm 65 now. I'm probably will be in this role for another 5 years, maybe a bit more. But, we start to think about who's the next, because we're the founders. We're like, if it's a small business, we're the people who started the business, but at some point it needs to be handed off. And that's I don't want to say dangerous, it's a very challenging time for an organization that hand off to the next generation or the next person who's not emotionally connected to it like we are. And as one of my mentors told me, he said, that goes one way or the other. It goes up or it goes down. It does not stay the same. I'm always aware of that. And I'm always looking around. I have a great program manager. She's very complimentary to the work I do as far as our skills. And so, there are people like that, but you always have to keep an eye out. And it's crazy. I mean, the demands you're on all the time. That's not a life that is for everybody. You don't go home at 5 o'clock. You have crazy hours. I work every weekend, and I would work 7 days a week if Isabel wouldn't put the brakes on. So that transition is going to be very important for us. But I have a great board of directors. I know the organization is going to continue. I'm certain of that.
That sounds great. Just a final closing here. What do you both love the most about what you do? Isabel, you go first.
Well, I'm not actively involved anymore in the programming. I still do the bookkeeping, which keeps me busy a few days a week, but that's not such a bad thing. What I love most about the program is to see the change in people. It's amazing. People come into the program often depressed, fearful. They didn't know what they get themselves into. They find something to do they enjoy that's good for them. They're out in nature. And after a couple of weeks, they're different people. They're happier. They're better adjusted. And we get it often. You guys changed my life, which is incredibly satisfying. That's why I did it and why I'm so enthusiastic about it.
For me, it's the community that we built. The community, to me, it looks like, I think how I would like the rest of our, the larger community to look like, except we have a lot more people with disabilities in it. We call it blended programming. We don't make a distinction often between you have a disability, so you can only do this, and you don't have a disability, so you're going to help somebody do that. We really it's there, but we don't highlight it. And we just try to build this community around the sports. So it's social, there's social engagement, there's fitness and health benefits, but it becomes knitted into people's lives. And that's and it's something people look forward to. So I hear that over and over. So it's that community. It's what matters.
Yeah, it's also the group of volunteers that are just the most amazing people you want to know. And a lot of them have become our friends.
We've even gone on vacation with some of them.
That's right.
So we must like them.
Wait, you take vacations?
Yeah, it really is a family. You hear that a lot, but it really is. And we've had I have instructors who have their children now are instructors in our program. So it's multi-generational. That's a lot of fun, although I try not to think about how old that means I am. But and I see that with students too. I have a skier who She came back. I haven't seen her for quite a few years, and she came back with their kids to ski in our program. That was really fun. It really does. We've been around long enough to be able to see that kind of development.
You have a wonderful, wonderful center, and I know it's going to be hard to let go of it eventually, but I wish you the best of luck, and thank you so much for speaking with me. And for our listeners, you can visit centeronline.com for more about the Pennsylvania Center for Adapted Sports. Thank you so much, Jeff and Isabel.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa. It's a pleasure talking to you.
This podcast is brought to you by AM Skyer, a third-generation family insurance business started in 1920. I'm your host, Lisa Champeau. Talk to you next time.